I just speak my peace, keep my peace.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to episode 85 of the Speak My Peace podcast. As always, I'm your gracious host, Greg Lacey. Shout out to all my listeners, wherever you're listening on SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube. Shout out to my listeners on YouTube. I know that's a brand new community, but thank you to you all who continue to tune in to the YouTube episodes. Shout out to my sister. Without my sister, I don't even know that I would be continuing the YouTube episodes, just because she keeps my hair, done up. She's been hooking me up during this coronavirus pandemic. For those of you who not listening on YouTube, I'm just maneuvering my head so they can see, her latest work. But for real, without her, I probably wouldn't even continue to do the YouTube episodes, because I just wouldn't want to be on here. I wouldn't care too much about my appearance. Like prior to that, I was recording these episodes, like just doing whatever. Now every week I have a reason to line myself up, to shave and things like that. So definitely a huge shout out to the YouTube viewership. I can't stress enough how important that is. It's equally important as the rest of the communities, but I know that YouTube is the most newer of the Speak My Peace podcast. Yeah, man, like we always do about the time, I hope that you all are still reaching. I hope that this episode reaches you all in good health. Hoping that you all are still taking the proper precautions to protect yourself and your loved ones as we continue to battle this coronavirus pandemic. Just thinking about it, this episode is nearly a year since I came back off my break. As you all remember, and I love reflecting on the Speak on Peace podcast, which I will do a lot next, and I'll probably do some in this episode. No promises, but this time last year I released episode 51, which was the start of season 3. And the only reason why I released that is because, I found myself with more time at home due to the work from home, because of the coronavirus pandemic and how my company and how my office was handling it. And I was able to, get back in the swing of things. Prior to that, I had taken like a 3-month break just because I was like, just getting accustomed to that new work schedule and not really finding time to, want to come home and record and edit and then go back to work and things like that. But I mean, for the past year, we've been rocking. I've been probably more consistent than I have been in the prior 12 to 18 months. And this is all because I've been able to work from the comfort of my own home. Like I spoke about a couple episodes ago, everything in regards to this new normal is all about perspective. This coronavirus has been the worst for some. I know someone who knows someone that, has lost a significant other, has lost a parent. I know people who've had, great things happen to them in their personal lives and in their professional careers and things like that. And I'm definitely one will say that this coronavirus definitely has allowed me to expand this Speak My Peace podcast universe, allowed me to really own in on different things, allowed me to really, curate some of the best episodes. And I'm definitely grateful for that. So we will reflect on that sometime in the future. But even speaking about that in regards to coronavirus and this pandemic, y'all remember this time last year, I was like kind of hoping and guessing that, we would get back to what would be quote unquote normal around the summer. I think my prediction was July, and we all know that didn't happen. It was July of 2020. We all know that didn't happen, and now I'm hoping that that remains true for July 2021, to where things are getting back to normal. And it seems like we're moving in the right space. I know more and more vaccines are rolling out. We have the 2-dose vaccines, we have the 1-dose vaccines, and people are getting vaccinated. Again, as I said in earlier podcasts or earlier episodes, I'm not going to use my platform to speak against or advise against getting vaccines or to advise to get vaccines, because that's not my place. That's not something that I'm educated on, and that's not something that I'm equipped to discuss. But the fact and the matter is, more and more vaccines are available, and more vaccines are being distributed. And so as a result, more of the world are becoming vaccinated. Here, specifically in the U.S., I think 18% of the United States population have at least received one dose of the coronavirus vaccine, and nearly half of that, which is 10%, or more than half of that, which is 10%, has received both doses. So we are definitely, moving as far as fighting against the coronavirus. We're definitely progressing, and towards, that new normal, that we're trying to get to. The world is starting to open back up here in California. We're moving up in tiers. For those of you who don't understand what tiers are, there's like color coded tiers that the mayor, the governor of California, Governor Gavin Newsom, has set for Californians in regards to like businesses being open and where we're able to go and socialize and how we're able to socialize and things like that. Not really a law, but just a mandate and how, we should operate in order to fight the corona vaccine. And for the longest, we've been in the most restrictive tier. If it's non-essential, the businesses have been closed. It's been advised to, not meet up with people and things like that, and not, partake in, going to restaurants or going to movie theaters and things like that. But I think either next week or next month, and maybe next month, I believe it's like April 1st. I think we're on track to go up one tier, to a less restrictive tier, to where like things like amusement parks are opening up at a certain capacity. Movie theaters are opening up at a certain capacity. I think sports venues will open up, so like people will be able to go to Dodger Stadium and see Dodgers game as the season approaches, or and then other things like that. Just like progressing to more, allowing people to be able to socialize, not really socialize, but being able to divert into hobbies that we may have had prior to the world being shut down. So that's definitely something that's positive in terms of progression. And then on the other end, we have states like Texas and Mississippi, to where we have the governors getting rid of the mask mandate. I believe today, the day that I'm recording this podcast, Texas has released their mask mandate, meaning that citizens of Texas are not required to wear their mask in public anymore. Like, it's a choice whether you want to wear a mask. I don't know. This is something that I expect from Florida, but Florida probably been doing that, which is why, everybody been going to Miami during out this whole coronavirus pandemic. But it sounds crazy, especially Texas being one of, if not the biggest states in the country. But yeah, they're getting rid of their mask mandate. Essentially being a guinea pigs. Not to be disrespectful to, because I know we have listeners in Texas, not to be disrespectful to you all, but I think that's what the Texas government believe of you all, is that, we're going to use you all as an example, and hopefully we all come out on top. If nothing bad comes out of, Texas getting rid of their mask mandate, then maybe the rest of the world will see this as an example. I would hate for it to be, and I'm not even going to speak about what I would hate for it to be, because that's like putting that energy out into the universe, and I don't want to do that. But I think that it's definitely going to be interesting to watch over the next couple of weeks, just to see how Texas progresses in regards to how other states may follow their lead, or whatever the case may be. It's definitely gonna be something good to watch. But I think just overall, the bigger picture, when we think about the vaccines, the distribution of the vaccines, the progression of the vaccines, moving from double dose to single dose. Well, I don't know that we're moving from single dose, because the one company that's issuing the single dose vaccine is the same company that has been linked to many ovarian cancer cases, lawsuits over the past couple of years. So that's kind of tricky. Again, I'm not going to use my platform to advise against getting vaccines or getting vaccines, but I will say that one thing, that I find it kind of funny that the one company that is issuing the single dose vaccine is the one company that has also been linked to I'm talking about $500 million lawsuits over the past couple of years. If I was somebody investing in that, if I was somebody, thinking about getting the vaccine and had my precautions or my questions, that is the one I'm standing against. Again, don't use my voice or use my sound bits as excerpts in regards to any type of help or any type of guidance for like medical guidance. Don't use that. But it's just my better judgment. I know to stay away from certain things, and the optics of Johnson & Johnson issuing a single dose vaccine seems weird to me. That's it. That's all. I'm not saying don't get it. I'm not saying get it, but I'm just saying take things into account when you think about who was issuing the vaccines and what type of vaccines they're issuing and where you're getting your vaccine from, because that is definitely something that if I was getting a vaccine that I would want to look into, a company's history, what they've done in the past and things like that. That's scary because I'm not going to say it's life or death, because I don't know that any of the vaccines have caused fatalities, but the coronavirus is life or death. So when you're seeking guidance for a vaccine to combat that, I think you should be extra careful and be very intensive in your research for seeking things out like that. And that's literally all I have on that. I don't want to get too much in that, because then I'm going to be on this platform posing as a medical expert, which I am far from. So again, hopefully that reality, hopefully our realities are changing from what it has been in the past 12 months. Hopefully all the signs we see with the what's going on in Texas, what's going on here locally in California, what's going on in Mississippi, what's going on all across the world. Shoot, even Georgia. We had the All-Star game in Atlanta last weekend, and as a result, they drew in a lot of tourist attraction. Even though it was mandated, or even though it was said it was highly encouraged to not visit Atlanta, even though the All-Star game was in there. People went against it and went there anyways, and were out clubbing and things like that. Hopefully that we are now in the space, 1 year into this here stateside. It's longer other places like China and Europe, but here stateside United States, we are 1 year into this, what has become our new normal, and hopefully that this is the sign of things changing. People, being able to go to Dodger games and potentially go to Clipper games and maybe go to concerts and able to go to the movies and things like that. Even if the capacity is limited and things like that, it's still like a sense of, or a sign of relief, because now we are getting back to what we have known for our entire lives prior to things getting shut down. So again, hopefully that this is a sign of things to come. And even on that same topic of a sign of things to come, I just want to recap episode 84, because I didn't really get into it. I was really just using the episode to provide, my feedback on, or my experience on traveling during the pandemic. But I didn't really get into, just me and my mind state and everything during that pandemic. And I want to recap that. I think that one thing that I missed was just like what that did for me mentally. I didn't cover that in the last episode. I didn't cover, the rewards that I got from it and things like that. And so I had to use the beginning of this episode to recap that. First of all, it was great. I don't even know if I even covered that in the last episode. But the vacation, it definitely was great. It was definitely something that I needed. Just because I haven't been on vacation since then. Like I've, for the most part, been in the house, other than the other times that I covered in this episode that I haven't been. But just being here home and working for an entire year. Granted, we had 3-day weekends. We had 3-day weekends. We had these things at my work, at my job, in my company, called Summer Fridays, to where like we are able to take a certain amount of Fridays off throughout the summer. We have little incentives like that, and it's definitely great. But like a vacation is different from a 3-day or 4-day weekend, because you have that mind state when you're on a 3-day weekend. It's like, this is just an extended weekend. Like, I still have to get back to work. And the mindset of vacation is definitely more relaxing. You're not worried about things. You're not worried about what you got to get back into, because when that time comes, you will come. Well, for me personally, that's what a vacation is for me. It's definitely just, it allows me to, I know a lot of people use the terms relax and recharge. It allows me to do that. It allows me to just free my mind. I like to vacation tropical places, just because I love the water. I love hearing the sound of waves crashing. As corny as it sounds, I love hearing the sounds of like waves crashing on the shore. I love seeing white sand. I love seeing, I guess it's like turquoise. I don't know if it's turquoise or teal or green. I love seeing that clear water, because you don't get that here in the States. But I just love being in places like that because it puts my mind at ease, and it's like very relaxing for me. It's kind of therapeutic, I guess you can call it. And so I like to vacation in places like that. And so that's what this vacation was for me as well. Like as soon as the room that I had, it was a slide door, and you can literally just see, the endless ocean. You can hear the waves crashing if you leave the door open at night. And this is just like this therapeutic, serene scene that I have for 5 days straight. And I can't beat that. But I definitely need that in regards to, just like the rigors that I have in my day-to-day life from, working a job that, I'm not gonna say I'm not too thrilled about it, because it sounds like I hate my job. I don't hate my job, but it's not like, when I think about the bigger picture of life, and I cover it many times in this podcast, like that's not what I want to, that's not what my life goal is. The job that I'm currently in, granted, it's great. This is not something I see myself doing for 5+ years. And so things like that, it can become taxing, especially when you have those very, very busy days, and you start to ask yourself, like, what am I doing this for? Like, why am I here? And it becomes like mentally taxing on you. And I definitely have days like that. And it's like kind of hard to get away when you're literally just in that routine of like doing that for 5 days. You get a break off and come back to doing that. When it's not something that you really love or something that you're not really passionate about, some weeks may be harder than others. And I definitely have dealt with that many a times within this past 12 months of working at home. Granted, I've been able to work from home, and I'm grateful for that. And I've been able to stay employed throughout this whole pandemic. I'm extremely grateful for that. But there does come the times to where, the day-to-day life of being in a position I am in, it becomes hard. I think about just the physical toll. I work out 5 to 6 days a week, not because I like it, but because I understand, like, in the long scheme of things, the longevity of this thing we call life, like that's something that I had to stay on top of in order to, keep my body in tip-top shape, in order to keep my health, in tip-top shape. I have to do that. It's not something that anyone likes, but it's just like a sacrifice that I have to make for the grand scheme of things, or the long, I don't know what word I'm trying to say, but for the bigger picture, that is something that I have to partake in. Even though I don't like it, it's still something that I have to do. And that takes a toll on you. Like, I've been thinking about even recently, like, I don't know any point in my life to where I had like a period to where, I was just able to rest for like an entire month, just because like I've been playing sports my entire life. And even when I'm not playing sports, and when I'm not playing competitive sports, like I'm still doing something to where I'm very active, just to keep, my body healthy, or keep my body in shape and things like that. And that takes a toll on you that like I can't think of in any period of my life to where I just went 4 weeks without doing anything. And that definitely takes a toll on me. And I'm kind of being hypocritical, because even on vacation, I got up and ran. Like, I probably worked out, like, out of the 5 days, 2 days, I worked out on the morning of my birthday, which was like the day after I got there, and then I worked like somewhere in the middle. But it's probably, most people are probably like advise against it, but it's also like something that I still need to do. Like, that is a sacrifice. That's something I have to do to prepare for, the long road. And we have just in life period, we have mental lapses. Think about, what I was speaking about in the job thing. Like, the only reason why that would take a toll on me mentally is because, I'm not where I want to be, as far as what I have planned for myself. And so, I'm constantly thinking about that. Like, how is this helping me to get to that? Or what is this doing to benefit to that? Or when am I going to start doing that? Why am I holding myself back from doing this? And it's just all just like mental battles or personal battles I have for myself. And so when I think about things like that, it all becomes taxing, and it all culminates into like a bigger thing to where it weighs down on you. I don't wear it too much. I don't wear it at all. The stress that those things take on me, but it definitely takes a toll on me. I try my best not to think about it, because I think when I spend too much time mentally thinking about it, that's when it begins to affect me. But it happens. Like, we all are humans, and we deal with certain things differently. We deal with many of things in our lives weekly, daily, hourly. And so, to get back to what I was speaking about, the main topic of this is that was the reason why I really needed that vacation, because once in a while you just have to treat yourself to something. I know people like to indulge in certain things, whether it's like shopping, whether it's like eating. A lot of people is traveling. For me, that's traveling. Traveling does that for me. It's very therapeutic, and just like removing me from a certain mind state, or removing me from like a certain medium, and allowing me to be free. And also allows me, like, get back to that term that I said a lot of people use, to relax and recharge. It definitely allows me to relax and recharge, because now I'm able to refocus on whatever goals I have for myself. Like, I always use my birthdays to pinpoint, what I have done in the past 12 months and what I need to do for the next 12 months, and then the 12 months following that. And so this definitely allowed me to recalibrate whatever goals I have set for myself, whatever milestones, whatever timelines I have set for myself. And it definitely it's therapeutic in that sense. Another great thing that happened to me during my birthday and during vacation was a phone conversation I had with my grandma, and she made, just like one comment that stuck out to me, and she was speaking about just milestones. I'm not gonna cover my age; it doesn't matter. You know me personally, you know how old I am. But she was speaking about, just reflecting on the age I am now, and then me getting close to another milestone. And that's another thing that is constantly, especially being a young black man, is like, I'm grateful, and it sounds cliche, because I know I've said it a lot. I know a lot of black men say it a lot, but y'all have to understand that what we have up against us, the lives that we have set for us, it's supposed to go one way. And for me to be the age I am right now, I know that I'm not supposed to be where I am right now. There's many different avenues that I'm supposed to have went down, just based on the trajectory of my life, because of where I've came from, or trajectory of other relatives, or trajectory of parents and things like that. Those things you take those things into account as you mature. And especially as a young black male, the many options, because you see how certain things turn out. We have siblings who go, may take a wrong turn, and that wrong turn may, affect their life forever. We have relatives that may take a turn down a wrong road, and that, decision may affect their lives forever. We may have parents, we may have very, very close friends, to where they make one mistake as a youth or as a young adult, and that affects their lives tremendously. And so we are constantly dealing with this like survivor's remorse, no matter where you come from, whether you come from, a ghetto, whether you come from the suburbs, whether you come from a third world country. There are definitely burdens that come with being, I'm not going to say that, because we're not going to speak on that. I don't want to say there's burdens that comes with being a black man, but there are definitely things that weigh you down because of your skin, and we are very cognizant of that. We understand what our reality could be, and so when those things are not our reality and we overcome that also takes a toll on you. But getting back to the comment that she made just about just a milestone, I also had to take that into account. Like, when she said that, I had to stop and smell the flowers, and I don't really do that for myself too much, and that's something that I have to do. When I was episode, I believe 81, when I had my friend Sean on here, and he was talking about, that's something that we should do more, just as human beings, period, is stop and smell the flowers, and not overlook, certain things that we have accomplished, and overlook certain things that we are doing, because they are big. That's one thing that he covered in the episode. But when she made that comment about, me getting closer to another milestone, I, in that moment, just had to stop and smell my own flowers of everything that I've overcome, everything that I've accomplished, and everything I have planned for myself. it's definitely not something to be overlooked. And I don't need to get into it because I'm not the type of person. I'm a very humble person, but I definitely know that list is long, and that change. I don't want to say it changed the trajectory of my vacation, but it definitely allowed me to enjoy it even more than I already did. And so, in that sense, I think that despite, everything that's going on, despite being in the middle of a pandemic, that, that vacation was a success. And I'm glad I did it, despite, taking a risk and risking my health and risking the health of others. I'm glad that I came on the other side okay, and that, it didn't come out, or there wasn't any negative experience from that, because it was definitely needed. Especially even going forward with this podcast, like, allow me to recalibrate goals I have for this podcast and things like that. So that is definitely something that I recommend for many of you, especially now that the world is somewhat beginning to open up. If you feel comfortable, definitely do that. Especially if you're someone who, you've been working with your head down for the past 12 months. If you've been working with your head down for the past 2 months, that's something that you should indulge in, because or I'm not even gonna say just that. Find something that you can indulge in that's therapeutic for you, no matter what it is. Whether that's going to get a massage, going to get going to shop, going to eat, whatever the case may be. Just find something, because this like the mental toll of this past year is weighing down a lot of people, and we don't, because we are in the midst of it, because we're in like the middle of the grind. You don't really understand it, but it's taking a toll on us, and so we have to indulge and we have to engage in these certain things, because in order for us to continue to progress, in order for us to continue to grow, in order for us to, have this clear vision of what we need to accomplish, you have to remove yourself from your current situation. Because a lot of times, especially when you're in the middle of something for so long, you begin to have tunnel vision. It's like, I wake up, I go to work, or I wake up, I podcast, or I wake up, I game, I wake up and I hustle. You begin to have tunnel vision because you're in that routine of doing it so long that anything outside of that routine, it's like it interferes with what you feel like you have to do. And I definitely been in that mode, and I've been in that mind state, especially like as a young adult, been in the Air Force. Like, I remember my last couple of years in the Air Force, it was a routine. It was just like, I wake up, go to work, get off of work, go play basketball, go work out, and then on the weekends, I go party and things like that. And this was just like what I was doing week after week after week. And granted, I think the only reason why I realized that, that wasn't becoming fun for me or wasn't healthy for me is because I got out. Like, if I didn't get out, I don't think I would realize that how unhealthy that routine is, because I didn't have any goals outside of what I was doing. Like, I did a couple of community college classes while I was in there, but I was just doing something to pass time, if I'm being completely honest with you all. But because I was in the midst of it and I wasn't able to see myself outside of it, I was just fine with that routine, and it wasn't doing anything from me. Like, granted, it's nothing wrong with, submerging yourself into your work. There's nothing wrong with dedicating yourself to your work. There's nothing wrong with, working as hard as you can. But you definitely have to find different things to indulge in, just to satisfy you. You can't lose sight of things like that. Now, I only have 2 more topics. I'm gonna get out of here. I had a lot of topics to cover, and I didn't really get around to them. I wish I did. I wish I had time to, but it really just would have made this podcast like an hour, 2 hours long. But before I do get into the next 2 topics, I do want to say a huge shout out to Jay-Z for those huge deals he's done. I didn't really get to speak about the last one because I didn't really know too much about it, but him selling his stake in Ace of Spades, that happened while I was on vacation. And then this past week, he was able to announce a new partnership with Jack Dorsey, who was the CEO of Square and Twitter. That's definitely huge. It's definitely 2 huge business moves from someone who has done nothing but great business over the past 10 years. So huge shout out to Hove, and a huge shout out to Swizz Beatz and Timbaland, who sold the rights. I don't want to say sold the rights, but who also announced a partnership with the social media I don't know if Triller is an app or just a website, but the media company Triller. Most of you know Triller is the video collage app, which was essentially TikTok before TikTok, where people, would go to and do all the the viral dances and songs and things like that. They most recently started to get into sports. They hosted the Jake Paul and Nate Robinson, and also the Mike Tyson and Roy Jones fights. So that's huge for them. And then they also claimed the rights to another fight. I forget his name, but I know one of the fighters is a big fighter's last name, Lopez. I forget his first name, or I don't know how to pronounce his first name, I should say. But they also gained the rights to his fight, and then following that, they announced a partnership with Versus, which is also huge. We know Versus has been providing some of the best entertainment during this pandemic, and all the participants in Versus also got a stake in equity of Triller as a result of this partnership. So huge shout out to Swiss Beats and Timberland. Huge shout out to Hove. Major business moves. Just the rap community in itself, it continues to grow. Continues to open the door for more people like us, and it continues to lead the way in showing why our culture is the leading culture and everything as it relates to everything as it relates to not engagement. What is the word I'm looking for? Oh my gosh. We're gonna say engagement. I don't know why I get brain farts in the middle of this podcast, but just the influence. That's what I'm trying to say. Our culture is a leading culture in influence. You can't take that away. You can't measure it, but I'm glad that it's providing positive impact for our people. Last two topics we want to get out of here. So you all remember in the earlier episodes in the summer, I believe it was like episode 62, I believe, where I had, the 4 guests on here. In episode 61, I was covering the topics of allyship, just in the midst of everybody becoming woke during this pandemic as a result of, the nationwide protests. And I was dispelling my dismay for allyship, because it's just not something that I want. Like, I don't want you to feel sorry for me because of my skin color. I don't want you to show me pity because of my skin color. I want you to genuinely, care about human rights and understand why injustices, care why racism, and care why oppression is wrong. No matter, who the subject is, no matter what race they are, just understand that as a human being, no one should be subjected to those things. And so, I've always been against this term allyship, because I don't understand it, and I just never felt the need for it. But we seen a lot of people come out and we hear these far cries for allyship. We hear these people talk about how they're the allies of the oppressed people, and to me it's just it sounded weird. Remember during the George Floyd protest, during the Breonna Taylor protest, all these companies coming out and issuing these statements and how they stand with our people and things like that. And I been vocal about how it just it sounds good, but I don't know that that's exactly what they believe in. And this week, a couple of days ago, we got one of those examples of where just I knew this is exactly why I was against allyship. And this example is NBA player, probably former NBA player, soon, Myers Leonard, and this video has come out and him spewing these racist, these anti-Semitic slurs. Basically, for those of you who don't know the backstory, Myers Leonard is a forward for the Miami Heat. He was on Twitch, which is a streaming platform for gamers, and he was playing Call of Duty. And during this match, I guess he got killed, and as a result, he just yelled out this I'm not gonna repeat it, but you can Google Myers Leonard and you'll see the video. Basically, he spewed out this anti-Semitic word. Again, I'm not gonna repeat the word, even though anti-Semitic is basically just a derogatory word towards Jewish people or the Jewish community. The one thing that stood out to me was just his response, or it was just like you could tell that it was a word that he uses often, which is, it's weird that like even a word like this is even a vocabulary. But even after he says a word, he's like, oh, anyways. Like it happens. Like you can find the video if you have a phone, if you have internet, you can just Google it and you will see it. But anyways, he says a word and he said, oh, but anyways, like he knew what he did. He just messed up because a lot of people, I guess, had heard him. But just like the thoughtfulness, you can tell that this is something that he uses often. And the reason why I bring up this allyship conversation is because, you know, during the NBA bubble last summer, or when was the NBA bubble? Why did it seem so long ago? During the NBA bubble last summer and fall, you know, we were aligning, or the NBA and the players were aligning with these social justice messages and standing with social justice and the fighting against racial inequality and oppression and things like that. Basically taking on the fight that Colin Kaepernick had started 5 years ago, just an extension of what he has started. And so, you know, there was a lot of conversations around, as always, this military and, you know, kneeling during the national anthem, disrespecting military, which we all know that kneeling during the national anthem has nothing to do with the military. As I've stated on this podcast many times, as the originator of the kneeling protest, Colin Kaepernick has stated a million times, it has nothing to do with the military. And we know that bringing up the military in regards to kneeling during the national anthem is just a divisive way to change the narrative about what the actual fight is, which is against racism, inequality, oppression, or systematic oppression in this country, and just going against those values. That's what the fight has been this entire time. That's what Colin Kaepernick has been very vocal about, but people continue to ignore it for some reason. I don't get it, but that is what it is. The reason why I bring up Myers Leonard is because during this time, he was one of those athletes that decided not to kneel during the national anthem, stating that, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not quoting him specifically or verbatim. It doesn't even matter if I was quoting him verbatim because he a pig. But anyway, stating that he refused to kneel during the national anthem, but he was still standing in the fight against racism, inequality, and social, or racism, equality, and systematic oppression. He was stating that the only reason why he could not kneel is because he comes from a long history, or he comes from a family, a military background, people who in his family who have fought in the military, and he felt that, you know, he had to support his family and show his love for his family, and that it had nothing to do with him not actually supporting the message. Great. You know, I'm not going to argue. Again, it had nothing to do with the military. I understand when it happened in real time, I didn't understand why this was brought up, but it was brought up, and NBA gave this man a platform to continue to stress his message. I remember they gave this man an entire segment during one of the pre-games. I think it was in the playoffs, which is probably even worse because more people are actually tuned into it. But they gave this man a whole segment on NBA TNT to continue his conversation about why he could have kneeled during the national anthem. This all happened. It blew over. Everything goes on. You know, the Miami Heat makes the NBA Finals. They lose to Lakers, so on and so be it. We never hear from Myers Leonard again. I don't follow him on social media, so I can't say he doesn't use his platform to speak against it. But I'm never, seeing any coverage of it. And that's not to say that anything that's not covered on social media or anything that's not publicly shared is not happening, because we all know that that's not true. But I'm just saying that, even scrubbed his social media and I couldn't find nothing that aligned with the messages against racism or social inequality beyond that or in recent times. And so we have, fast forward months past that, him crying on national TV about why he couldn't kneel during national anthem, and his support for the military, his support for his family and things like that. And then we go on months later, and now we have this idiot in a live stream on Twitch playing Call of Duty using an anti-Semitic derogatory slur. Why? Because the whole time he knew what really kept him from kneeling is, and I don't know too much about Myers Leonard, so I can't even pretend that I know too much about Myers Leonard, but we know the reality is that he couldn't kneel because of the optics of what that would look like to his friends back home, what that would look like to his family that probably were very vocal and against him kneeling. Excuse me to my YouTube listeners. I'm not even looking at the camera because I'm trying to do my quick background on Myles Leonard so I can just kind of get an understanding. He was born in Virginia but raised up in a small town in Illinois. Let me not because I was going to make an assumption just based off of where he grew up in and his family structure, but I can't do that because I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me. But the fact of the matter is that the reason why we are where we are today and the reason why this is all coming to light is because when you're not genuine about something, when you're not genuine about standing against something, and when you're not genuine in your fight and the message that you're spewing, it comes to light one way or another. It may take months, it may take a day, it may take an hour, but eventually that comes to light. And this is just one example. There will be many, and there will be many more in the future that we will see that may come to light. But this is just one out of the many. There's another two that I'm about to cover right after Myles Leonard. But this is just one of many. And the reasoning why I've never sought out allyship, never understood the need for allyship, because that's like forcing someone to care about you. You can't force someone to care about you. If they genuinely care about you, they genuinely care to fight the fight that you're fighting for, then you wouldn't need to enlist them in your fight. It would just be natural for them to join in that fight and want to help you and want to see progress and want to see, certain systems be torn down. And if they're not genuine and if it's fake, it'd be nothing to act a certain way while also not specifically aligning with what you're doing. And that's what we have here in this case. We have this man who used his platform to say that, I'm not going to kneel against racial inequality, systematic oppressions, and things like that. But I'm going to stand for it, and I'm going to be in support. And you have, his teammates who are in the same organization who just had to support him in that, because who they have known him to be in that organization was a different person from who he actually was. And now this comes into light, and now we see him for who he truly is. Granted, the slur he said wasn't against black people, which it doesn't soften the blow, I should say. Because this is not a platform that I use to say that, it's okay to be racist to certain people or not racist to another people. That's not true. I truly believe that racism is not okay. It just so happened to be that I am a black man and that we are the by far largest subject when it comes to racism. But we are not the only people. The racism is not inclusive to black people. It's just largely, we're just a large target in racism, if that makes sense. But take it back to him, it's just like the reason why this came out, the reason why he was so effortless and the reason why he spewed that word so seamlessly is because that's who he really is. And now everything that we saw over the past couple months with, him deciding that, he's going to stand for the national anthem. I'm still hot about it. I don't care if anybody's standing or kneeling against the national anthem. But when you use your platform to, y'all probably can hear that rain in the background. It's really coming down hard. Wow. And I live in California, for those of you who don't know. What y'all hear right now is rain. They say it never rains in Southern California. Y'all hear live. It rains in Southern California. But to get back to what I was speaking about, I'm not really mad about anyone kneeling versus standing for the national anthem. What I'm mad about is when people use their platforms to change the narrative of what that fight is about. And so, for Myles Leonard, I just have one thing to say to him. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. And now, for our second offender, and this is going to be a quick one, we're going to get out of here, is Greg McDermott, the head coach of Creighton's basketball team. Greg McDermott last week got into hot water because he chose, and this is another paraphrase, 'cause I don't care to quote these idiots verbatim when they say certain things, but he chose after a hard-fought game in which his team lost, his team, like many basketball teams, and whether it's college, high school, or professional in this country, it's going to be largely occupied by black people, populated by black people. He chose to use the phrase plantation in some type of post-game speech. He said that in regards to this team's bad play, it was like we can't have guys who are leaving a plantation. If you're going to be here, I don't get it. But this is another sense of like, why is that word in your vocabulary? And actually, just for the sake of this podcast, I do have to look up the actual quote just so that you all understand the seriousness of not the seriousness, but do get to the whole story. And I'm not paraphrasing. That's probably something that I should look up. Give me 1 second, y'all. I am going to put up this quote. What did he say? I saw it earlier this week, and I probably should have came prepared for it. Basically, what he said, and I don't want to paraphrase again because I just said I wasn't going to paraphrase, and that's the reason why I'm looking down on my phone to try to figure out what he said. But basically, he was saying that we can't have guys who are halfway on a plantation and guys who are all the way out the plantations or things like that. Here we go. The quote said, "Guys, we got to stick together. We need both feet in. I need everybody to stay on a plantation. I can't have anybody leave the plantation." Why is plantation in America? Channeling my inner Bernie Mac. America, please explain to me why plantation is in this white coach's vocabulary in 2021 in a sport that is largely populated, no matter what level it is, by black people. Please explain to me why plantation is in anyone's vocabulary in 2021. You can come from a long line of slave owners. Why is plantation, which he probably does come from a long line of slave owners, but why is plantation in this man's vocabulary? Someone please explain this to me, because for the life of me, I could not figure it out for the past couple months. I had a conversation with someone who was from Alabama last week, and he was telling me about how, down there, properties are homes that are on big acres of land. People still refer to them as plantations. And, I can't argue against that because I'm not from Alabama. I don't know exactly where he was from, but I don't know people from the part of Alabama where he's from. But my whole argument was that I know many people from many places in the South: Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, all these states who engage in slavery. And I know many people of many different races from these states as well. And I told him that I don't know if it's in any of these people's vocabulary, but in all my years, I've never heard anyone in the South use the word plantation, because that was his argument, is that he wasn't arguing that it was okay to say it, but he said he know that is a word that is used in the South. And I said, despite what he is saying, I don't know anyone who's ever used that word. I couldn't think of any reason to even want to use that word. And this is not like Myers Leonard, where it's like racism, but this is like a case of that blind ally. I don't know if I want to use the term blind allyship. This is like a case of just fake care and support. You have to understand the times that we're in, to where we're bringing light to inequality, racism, and social fights against systematic oppression. his team is out there playing basketball with the message equality on the back of their jerseys. And despite that, he still found time to use his word plantation in a post-game talk to his team. Why? Because they don't care, y'all. This is why we don't need allyship. This is why we have to continue to stick together with each other, fight for each other, care for each other, love on each other, and propel each other to higher plateaus, because these people don't care about us. I'm not going to say they all don't care about us, but there is a huge population that do not care about us. And we have to understand that. We can't continue to long for, changing the mindset of these people, because we're going to die waiting for that. This man is in his 60s. He has a son that's like in his either late 20s or early 30s that's in the NBA. That's in the same league that this idiot Myers Leonard is in. He raised that man. And that man is a professional athlete. He's in the same league that's largely comprised of black people. And he's using a word like plantation, while on the other end still fighting against racism and social injustice and systematic oppression. It don't go hand in hand, and it never will. But this is what we have out there. These blanketed bigots. And we can't lock arms with these people because it's detrimental to our fight. Just like us, causing harm or inflicting harm against people because of their races. That's detrimental to our fight. It doesn't propel us. It doesn't help us reach newer plateaus. It holds us back. It's like a weight. It's like being in the middle of the ocean with a dumbbell tied around your ankle. It's like you can fight against it as much as you can to breach that water, the surface of the water. But the fact of the matter is, there's always going to be something that's holding you down. And the only way to fight that is look to your left and look to your right and have one of those other people that has already breached water help pull you up. Yeah, you may in turn bring them under the water for a bit of time, but they may be able to help you breach water, or may be able to get rid of that weight that's tied to your foot. And that's the only way that we can continue to. And I'm not against, locking arms with people of other races. I don't want to act like I don't want to be spewing that message on here. That's not what I'm for. What my message is that there are many people out here who are pretending to actually care for us, who don't give a damn, in their own social media and their own TV, and they're in these workplaces, and they're fighting for one thing, or they're vocalizing that they're fighting for one thing, and once they're around people, they're fighting against it. And we have to realize that. Yeah, it's important to get more of those people on our side, because that helps the progression in a view of the world. But it could also be very detrimental. And that's all I have for the Speaking of Peace podcast this week. Before we get out of here, my what to watch for this week. Why do I always forget what my what to watches are my what to watch for this week is I Got a Story to Tell on Netflix. Great documentary on Biggie Smalls. Once again, my what to watch for this week, I Got a Story to Tell on Netflix. My best kept secret for this week, we're going to go with Alex Isley, Masego, and Jack Dine, Good and Plenty. That's our Speaking of Peace podcast for this week. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure that you're subscribing. Make sure you're leaving feedback. Make sure you're commenting. Do all that. I appreciate it. Make sure you're sharing the podcast and everything. I appreciate you all for tuning in to Speaking of Peace podcast this week. I'm out.